2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Boss Shot Shells. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
Get that order in right now, bossshotshells.com. They'll ship straight to your door.
Waterfowl season is only about 4 months away if you count May, June, July, August. 5 months away, and you'll be hunting about 4.5 months, and you can start shooting them in Canada. 4 months away, you can start shooting them in the middle of August in the Dakotas, the big birds.
Not far away at all.
Nope. With us today, Mr. Scott Moss. Scott, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great. Hope you guys are.
You're the only person I know that has ever rigged a lottery. Is that safe to say?
I didn't rig it. I just executed out on the plan. Let's say that.
So
I said a couple months back, I did a Did You Know that if you bought, I can't remember how many lottery tickets it is.
I bet he can tell us.
5 million, whatever it is. You can hit every combination, and then you're guaranteed a winner.
Yep. So it depends on the state and how many numbers they're playing. But that was essentially in 1992, a project that I was involved with, what they were trying to do. And that was basically play every combination to guarantee their ability to win the lottery in the state of Virginia.
And like the way that I explained it is you're going to be money ahead. You just got to have the money up front is the hard part, I guess.
You got to have the money up front. That's right.
But so how would they print off how would there be time to print off every combination?
Yeah. So the way this one worked, so again, 33 years ago, I was a relatively new employee at this organization. Most of the things I was working on, the projects I was working on were out of town. I was living in Richmond, Virginia at the time. So it's a CPA firm and has a heavy busy season for taxes and year-end work with companies. And my projects were typically an hour and a half to 2 hours away. But on every Wednesday evening, the guy that ran the office would have a staff meeting. Everybody would have to come back in. We'd talk about the projects that are going on, what's happening. So that Wednesday, I drive back into town to go to the staff meeting. I get up to the office. I realize I've forgotten some things in my car. I go back down to my car, and I'm pulling stuff out, and I see these black Cadillacs come in, park at the very front of the building. And I'm like, well, that's a little unusual. These guys get out. They're in nice suits. They have metal briefcases. They're not handcuffed to them, but they have metal briefcases. And I'm thinking, okay, somebody's probably in trouble here. Thinking it might be the feds showing up. So I walk into the lobby of the office with them and press the elevator button. And they get on the elevator with me. I press my floor. And I'm thinking, I wonder what floor they're going to. And they don't press another button. So I'm like, okay, they're going to the same floor that I work on. And we had the entire floor for the office at that time. So we have our normal staff meeting. And in the end, the guy that was running the office says, okay, we have some special guests. And in walk the guys that came in with the metal briefcases driving the black Cadillacs. And they explain this strategy that they've done in Australia and other parts of the world, that basically their plan is to play every single combination. So they go through the logistics of how this is supposed to play out. At that point, Virginia was still a relatively new state in lottery games. They had been at it for a couple of years. They had it was pick 6 out of 44 numbers. So that was about 7.1 million combinations that were available. And their plan was to play every single combination. So we got our orders, and that was basically the drawings were on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights. So Wednesday night, if nobody won the lottery, we were supposed to call the number, and there was a password. And the password determined whether we needed to drive from Richmond, Virginia to essentially Virginia Beach, which was about 2 hours away, and basically start implementing this plan. So next morning, I wake up and hear on the news, nobody's won the lottery. Call the number, and sure enough, that's what it is. It's showtime. So got in the car and started driving down to Virginia Beach. And of course, that was one of the few days in February or the winter that year that we had bad weather. So it was a little bit snowy, a little bit icy. But we all got down there, and then they brought us into an office, and it was maybe a room about the size of a one-car garage, if you think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And they had boxes stacked floor to ceiling across every single wall. And in those boxes, they had pre-printed play slips. So you go to the retailer and you hand them the thing. Usually you fill out with a number 2 pencil, you give it to them, they put it in, and they print your ticket out. So they had these boxes, and each box had bundles of 10,000 tickets, play stubs, and they started assigning our team to various convenience stores and retail lottery sellers throughout southeastern Virginia. So I got to pick the stores that I wanted to go to, and those were the stores near where I grew up, where I went to high school. So I thought, well, that will be great. It will be convenient. So they start doling out the tickets, the play stubs. So each bundle is a bundle of 10,000, and you get multiple bundles to take to each of your stores. And you go to the store, and they know this is coming. They've already prepped their employees. You drop off your bundle of tickets at store number 1. You go to store number 2, you do the same thing. Store number 3, same thing. Then throughout the course of the day, you come back and make sure that they've got plenty of tickets. You refresh them, and you take the tickets that have been printed away from them. And at that point, I was about an hour and a half away from the main office where all the tickets were. So I would have enough tickets that I maybe had to go back to the main office one time during the day. I was driving a Honda Accord at the time. As we started getting into it, it was a lot of tickets.
Yeah.
I didn't know where I was going to put these tickets. I literally had the trunk of my car layered full of tickets. And my brother was a surfer. So I went by my parents' house where I'd usually go for lunch when I was doing this. And I picked up one of his duffel bags that he used to carry his surfboards. And I started using that to tote things into and out of the various retail stores. And so, again, thought it was a great idea that I was in the area where I grew up. But I remember walking into the store one day. I had a duffel bag, and I see one of my friends from high school, his dad, and he's like, "Scott, what are you doing here? And why are you in a grocery store with a duffel bag?" I'm like, "Can't talk to me right now. I'm working. Leave me alone." So the deal was, I would basically go from store 1 to store 2, store 3, store 4, then go back to store 1 and repeat the process. Make sure they had tickets to play, and then pick up the printed tickets that they had.
Is this all cash transactions? Because you can't use a credit card or nothing in Texas to buy lottery tickets. So it's all cash.
Yeah. So the good thing was, in the beginning, the group that was doing this had orchestrated and managed a payment stream with all of the retailers. So they were basically doing real-time wire transfers as the sales were taking place. So at that point, we weren't responsible. We didn't have any money. We weren't exchanging any of the money. But what was happening was all these play tickets were pre-printed on an old dot matrix printer. And so the machine was rejecting a pretty large number of the play stubs. And so we'd take the ones that had been rejected and deal with those separately. I had a different place in my Honda Accord that I would store the bad ones. And then the first night, I got back to the Koger Center really, really late. That's the office building where they were running the operations from. So late that the security guard had to let me in. I go up and knock on the door to the office, and I can hear some people shuffling behind the door, and knock again. They're like, "Who is it?" I said, "It's Scott. What do you want?" I said, "I have some things for you guys." Remember, I have my duffel bag with me. Mm-hmm. I hear the locks come off the door. Click, click, click. The door opens a little bit. "What do you have?" Unzip my duffel bag, show them the tickets. Door closes, opens. I walk in, give them the tickets for the day, and we're done. But by the second day, we realized these play tickets, play stubs that are not getting read, we've got to come up with a mechanism to deal with those. So we started in the evenings after the retailers would close the lottery machines for the night. We'd go back to the office building and we'd get some pizza, maybe some beers, and we sit there with a number 2 pencil and color in all the defective ones,
Oof.
and then take them back the next day
Um,
and play them. And it worked. But remember, we're trying to cover 7 million
Right.
combinations, and it's a very limited amount of time. We got Thursday morning to Saturday evening at about 9 or 10 p.m., I think it was.
So 7 million tickets is how many tickets had to be purchased to cover every
Yeah, it was a
combination.
little over 7 million. I think it was 7.1 million possibilities that were there.
And I'm assuming the big risk is that 4 other people don't have the same numbers that you have.
Absolutely. The risk is, do you share the jackpot with somebody, assuming you hit it? And then the unexpected risk that came into play here was we were running out of time to play all 7.1 million possible combinations. The other thing that people didn't anticipate was lottery fever started hitting the state. And so as I was going from one store to the other, listening to the radio, local radio station, I hear them say, somebody just bought $10,000 worth of lottery tickets. And I'm like, oh, this could be one of our people. In fact, it probably is one of our people. So then I show up at a store and there's a news crew out front. So I see the news van and I walk in. Again, I got a duffel bag and I see a news crew set up inside the grocery store, and the store manager is waving me off. So I just turned around and left and walked out. By that point, there was a lot of publication and publicity about what was going on. And I'm like, I have all these tickets. I'm an hour and a half away from the store. So I started changing up my routine. So instead of going store 1, 2, 3, 4, I go store 1, maybe hit store 3, just change it up. And I kept watching to make sure I wasn't being followed. You fast forward through all of this, and it became clear on probably that Friday that we were going to run out of time in being able to play every single combination, and use the number 2 pencil to clean up the defective play stubs and get them in circulation. So on Saturday, they made the decision to start, they being the people behind the lottery plan here, to start giving the team members that I was working with cash. And we would go to a 7-Eleven and drop down literally cash, and in exchange play the tickets. And so they're doling out cash. And I told them, I said, hey guys, listen, number 1, I'm an hour and a half away. Number 2, some of the stores you have me assigned to are not in the best parts of town. And so if I walk into some of these stores and say, I have $10,000, I want to play lottery tickets, you guys are probably not going to see me again, and you're probably not going to see your $10,000. So I didn't take any cash. Other people did take cash. So you fast forward, and Saturday evening, the machine starts shutting down. Everybody goes back to the office building, and we wait for the drawing. And they announce the numbers. And so remember, I said it's like the size of a 1-car garage, and it's got these boxes, and each boxes has a lot number and a sequence number on it. So they knew exactly. They gave Scott Moss this group of tickets, and they knew exactly what I had and what got played and what didn't. So numbers get drawn. Within a minute or two, you hear the folks behind the closed door screaming. So it's clear they got the winning ticket, and they come out and they tell us, yes, we do have the winning ticket. In fact, we have it in our possession. So literally in no time, they were able to determine they were a winner. What they didn't know was, were they the only winner? But what they also were able to find out was, remember, we started this Thursday morning. It ran until Saturday evening, that the winning ticket was purchased by one of the secretaries in our office within the first hour that we started doing this.
Oh my
so
goodness.
again, with all those lot numbers and sequence numbers, and they knew who was getting assigned what. They knew who the person was that played that winning ticket for them and win. So pretty incredible. So obviously they're super excited about this. They come out, they're throwing some cash up in the air. You're reaching up and just grabbing it. And so, we're 22-year-old kids at the time in Virginia Beach. So we go out for the evening, have a great time. I think we ended up spending all of the money that we had. I don't remember how we got a taxi to drive us back to the hotel. But we did make it back to the hotel that next morning. And I remember walking in. And as I'm walking in, it's the main guy that was running the whole operation here. And I got in the elevator with him. We had a cordial conversation. I couldn't tell you what we talked about. And so that was kind of the end. That was Valentine's Day, February 15th, 1992.
How much money did y'all win?
So they won, the initial jackpot was 28 million. But then there were tickets that were free plays. You win $1.
Oh,
you win $5. You win $1,000. So our team also had to stick around and help sort these tickets. This is a loser. Put it in this pile. Oh, this one wins $5, $500, whatever it is. These are free plays. We get to play again. So at that point, they were winners. We were sorting through things. And now the media is really onto things, right? So they realized that there was a foreign syndicate that had won the Virginia lottery. They start continuing to kind of push and figure things out. And so after the Saturday winning, I was pretty much done with the project. I went back to my other responsibilities, but I came back the next Wednesday evening for that staff meeting, and the mailboxes for everybody were up near where the receptionist is. And I'm getting stuff out of my mailbox, and the receptionist gets a call, and she says, "Hold on just a second." She puts the caller on hold. She says, "Scott, this is the local news channel. They know that we're involved in this thing with the Australians. They want to talk to the guy that runs the office. What should I do?" I said, "Well, I think you should probably put them back there and have them talk to them." So she's like, "Go back and tell them." So I walked back to the office. I knocked on the door. I said, "Hey, I was up front, and the local news channel has called, and they say that they know that we're involved in the lottery, and if you don't talk to them, they're going on the air in the next 30 minutes with the information they have." So he's like, "Oh crap, what do I do?" So I leave and close the door. She puts the call back to him. He comes out and says, "Yep, they know we're involved." So then it's aired on the local news. And so now we have a situation that the media is starting to zero in. They know where the office building is too. And we're still trying to sort these tickets. So we had to come up with a plan of how do we get through all the tickets to figure out what's a winner, what's a loser, what's a replay. So we had to do that at the same time that the media was dialing in and saying, "Hey, we know that the operations are taking place here." So we ended up putting some people in various remote locations with tickets, trying to figure all of that out. So in the end, they won a little over 28 million bucks. And the media was all over it. I know there are some lottery things going on in Texas right now, kind of a similar situation. And so in Virginia at the time, it was really a new state. There was nothing illegal about this. I think nobody ever imagined that somebody would try to corner 7.1 million combinations. Right. So keep in mind, I rode the elevator up with the mastermind that was behind all of this in the US, kind of orchestrating all of the logistics. So later that summer, and keep in mind, there are no cell phones at this time. Few people have cell phones. I was lucky enough, I had a bag phone, if you remember bag phones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So my wife and I are at home. It's like 7 p.m. The house phone rings. It's on the wall. Hello? Hey, Scott, this is Alex. Do you remember me? I'm like, yeah. He goes, how you doing? I said, I'm doing great, Alex. How about you? And I'm thinking, why is he calling me at home? So he tells me, Scott, there's been so much publicity about this lottery thing that we want to do a TV show on it. I'm like, oh, okay. And so he tells me about this TV show that's planned involving Pat O'Brien on a show called How'd They Do That? And I'm like, remember, I'm a 22, 23-year-old kid, lowest man on the totem pole. I'm like, I really appreciate you calling me and asking me about this and to participate on this, but I got to talk to my boss.
Right.
So I go in the next morning thinking, there's no way this guy is going to go for it. So I tell him, I said, hey, I got a call last night from that guy that we're working with on the lottery, and he's got this TV show, and he wants us to participate in it. Specifically, he asked if I would do it. And my boss says, I think that's a great idea. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So a few weeks later, production team shows up, and myself and one of the other junior associates are interviewed on this Pat O'Brien, How'd They Do That TV show. And I remember that it aired actually on St. Patrick's Day, 1993, because my wife and I are sitting at home watching TV, and this show comes on, and there I am on national TV. And about 10 minutes later, my house phone starts ringing off the hook. I'm like, we got to leave. So we end up going to a bar that night, drinking green beer for St. Patrick's Day. And that was kind of the conclusion of that piece. And then voicemail was still a relatively new thing in the work environment. So I get to the office the next morning, and the phone had a little light that would flash to tell you had a voicemail. Pick up the receiver, put in my passcode, your voicemail is full. I'm like, what? So I started going through all the voicemails, and it's all these people. Hey, I saw you on the TV. We want to do the same thing. We want to do this. So there were a bunch of people calling, and some of it was legit. Some of it were friends of mine that saw it calling and pranking me. So in the end, they ended up winning. They won, like I said, a little over 28 million bucks. And then this TV show airs. So that's 1993. And for every couple of years after that, there would be a rebroadcast of the show, and the same thing would happen. My office phone would be full of voicemails with people that saw it. And then it kind of died off. But probably in about 2017, 2018, I started to get some random calls again. Every once in a while, 6 months, every year, somebody would call and say, hey, are you Scott Moss that was on that TV show about the lottery? Yes. Well, we're thinking about doing a show. We're thinking about doing this, whatever it is. I'm like, okay. So I have to run through all the approval processes again. And I remember one time I got a call from somebody who was in Atlanta, and they wanted to do a movie about this. And it was a movie producer. So I called my brother. I said, hey, Dave, I got this call from somebody that wants to do a movie on the lottery. And he just laughed. He said, well, who's going to play you? I said, well, obviously Tom Cruise. He's like, Tom Cruise? I was thinking Danny DeVito.
What did how much money did they make on the other tickets that were there, all the other little side tickets?
I think all in it was about 31 or 32 million that they won.
Wow.
On
So
extras.
yeah. So they won 3 or 4 million on extras.
Yeah.
So what did y'all there just recently we had $1 billion lottery a couple times. I think you hit over $1 billion twice. What's keeping people from doing that again on $1 billion deal?
Yeah. So number one, they're playing a lot more than 44 numbers. So with each number that you add to the mix, the number of combinations start going up very, very rapidly. Mm-hmm. So to cover like a Powerball, logistically, could somebody pull it off? Maybe. Financially, it would be a huge bet you would have to place. And again, there's no guarantee that you're not splitting it with 1 or 2 or 3 or more people. I know in the state of Virginia, for them, they had never contemplated somebody would do this. And at the time, it was, as I said, perfectly legal. There were no laws, no prohibitions against this. As a result of that, they did start to change some of their lottery requirements, including how much could be sold to one individual or one group in a day. And so it made it infinitely more difficult to pull that off in the state of Virginia. And then other states started seeing what was happening in Virginia too, and started moving down the path of expanding the number of numbers that they had. So going from 44 to 54. And that obviously changed the number of combinations that you would have to play. And then some states did, I think, also put in some limits on how much they could sell to one individual. So I think from a $1 billion kind of Powerball perspective, logistically, I just think it would be pretty close to impossible to be able to pull off covering every combination there.
I think Texas now, I don't play the lottery much. When it gets real high, I buy $100 worth of tickets, and then I hope somebody wins it quick, because I think the last time it cost us about $1,000 before anybody ever we didn't win. But I think there's 72 numbers in the Texas lottery.
I don't know. I'm looking it up. So Florida went from 1 to 49, and just adding those extra 5 numbers increased the number of tickets to almost 14 million. So
just numbers.
Just by adding 5 numbers, you basically double the amount of tickets that you got to buy to ensure a winner.
I think I'm gonna look it up right now. I think the Texas lottery is
expensive.
It's 72 million.
So
72 numbers.
Did y'all get all 7 million tickets redeemed in time?
We did not play every single combination. We ran out of time, so we covered about 6 million. We were $1 million short. So there was also the risk that the winning number was one of those numbers that we didn't play for them.
God,
right.
That would have sucked, all that work.
Oh man, yeah.
So
there was a little bit of stress.
I can imagine. So how many people were involved? Like, how many people are splitting this $31 million pot?
Yep. So what we didn't know at the time was there was a investment syndicate out of Australia that put all of this together. So they sold ownership units in this Australian syndicate. And that's how they essentially raised their money. And with Virginia at the time, it wasn't I don't think they had a lump sum payout. I think they were paying out over 20 years. So the number on the jackpot had to be large enough that it made economic sense to take a 20-year payout. So the money was really the result of this syndicate that was put together in Australia, where they had all the investors pool their money, and that was the funds that were used in the wire transfers to go to the retail stores. The other thing that we didn't know at the time, and this came out much later, was just given the significant volume of wire transfers that were taking place, it caught the attention of Virginia State Police. It caught the attention of the FBI. And they were trying to figure out what is going on with this massive influx of wires, all kind of in a very concentrated area of southeastern Virginia. So in addition to being on the radar for the media, it was also on the radar for many law enforcement organizations as well, as to what was going on. And that came out quite a bit later after they had won the jackpot.
So do you think that you guys were driving the media attention? Like you said, like, oh, somebody just bought $10,000 worth of tickets and the media's all over it. That was you guys?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
And then did that cause other people to like start jumping in on this lottery frenzy? It
created a lottery fever. And there's no doubt other people were jumping in, probably not with $10,000,
right.
But maybe they go and play $500.
Yeah.
But you could, every evening on the news, you would hear about the sheer volume of tickets being sold with this particular drawing coming up on Saturday. So it was a big deal in the state.
Yeah,
at the time, for sure.
And probably people that never even played before, like, what the hell are we missing out on? Let's put $20.
Absolutely.
Texas
FOMO. We're missing out.
The FOMO, big time FOMO in Virginia.
Texas has 70 numbers.
70. Holy
Yep.
cow.
I can chat GPT that.
And
real
the
quick.
Powerball has 1 to 69 numbers. Powerball has 69 numbers, and the other Texas Mega Millions or whatever it is has 70 numbers.
That's a lot of combinations.
That's why it gets up to $1 billion sometimes.
Absolutely.
Everybody's always like, well, if I hit the lottery, I don't ever play the lottery unless it's big money. I don't ever play it.
Right.
And I do know a guy that won the lottery, hit all 6 numbers. It wasn't a Powerball.
Oh, wow.
And he won $25 million like in the mid 90s.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you, for me, keep in mind that room the size of a 1-car garage, seeing all those boxes in there and knowing that each box had bundles and bundles of $10,000 worth of tickets, you really get an appreciation of what 7.1 million combinations look like.
Wow.
And for me, I was like, there's no way you would ever win. So I didn't play the lottery for many years after that. I probably still have a little PTSD when I go by the stores and hear that machine printing the tickets out, because it was just like burnt into your brain after doing that for 3 days straight.
You'd think that some convenience store would have gone to him and said, listen, we shut down at midnight to 6 a.m. We can run 100,000 tickets here tonight or whatever. That's a lot of, you think about it, if they can run 5 to 10 tickets per deal, that's a lot to run 100,000 tickets is a lot of time. What was the profit they made? Did you ever know what the final profit was? Because it's 32 million, you said, and they've got 7 million just in tickets, and they was a million short on that, so they spent 6 million. Did they clear $20 million time all the cost, somewhere around 20 to 22?
Yeah, so they came out pretty good, I think. If you think about getting 28 to 32 million dollars, you've made an investment of $6 million. That's pretty decent return. They had to pay fees along the way too, right? They had to pay us. They had attorneys involved. They had to pay the attorneys. But I think they still probably came out okay on the overall net numbers.
So to win the Powerball, you have to buy 292 million tickets.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Almost $600 million in ticket sales to win.
Yeah, it's not
to win the Powerball.
They're going to do the only one that you're going to do, and I'm doing the math in my head, and I'm not an accountant, but 32 and 6 is 26. I'm going to say they probably come out about $22 million. And was there 7 investors?
Probably.
Would you say it was 7 investors?
No, I think it was a lot of investors because it was a relatively small buy-in, like $2,500 was, I think, the minimum.
Oh shit.
So I think they had a lot of investors in the syndicate with them.
So everybody probably made I don't even know how many. They 7 million. People. So 7 million. They made 3 times their money.
Probably. I mean, the claim to fame for the guy that was the mastermind behind this is throughout the world, he had won the lottery 14 times in other countries. And so what he liked about Virginia was, A, it was a new lottery. B, it was jokingly, only 7.1 million combinations. So he felt like it was probably a manageable hill to conquer.
Right. God, could you imagine if one of those million tickets you didn't get would have been the winner? And they would have lost. They would have lost $3 million because they only bought 6 million, and they won $3 or $4 million on the side. So they still would have lost $3 million. Not counting the cost of everything else they had. That's an incredible story. I mean, that's just interesting.
So how did they contact you guys?
Yeah. So we were, and at that time, we were part of an international network. So again, being a CPA firm, so we have clients that may want to do business in Germany. People in Australia may have clients that want to do business in the US. So it really came through connections we had in that international network, where one of the partners that was in the firm in Australia that was part of the network contacted the guy that was really running the firm at the time for us and said, hey, we've got this client. This is what they want to do. They want to come to the US. They specifically want to come to Virginia, and you guys have a bunch of offices in Virginia. So that's how we got plugged in with them.
Do you get any extra compensation for doing this, or do you just get your salary?
Yeah, great question. So, listen, there was a lot of euphoria at the time after winning, right?
Yeah.
And we had worked our butts off. I mean, I think I was sleeping about a couple hours a night. I drove about 4,000 miles from Thursday morning to Saturday evening. Um, and so, there was talk about bonuses for us, and I'm like, okay, great. So later that summer, one of the other associates asked me something about the bonuses. I'm like, you didn't get your bonus? They're like, what? I was like, you didn't get your bonus? No. I was like, come on. So just coincidentally, at the time, the partners had all gotten new, nice office furniture, new desks, leather chairs. So I went and I sat down in one of the partners' offices who wasn't there at the time in his nice new leather chair. I'm like, this is the bonus everybody got. So yeah, we didn't get anything except a pat on the back and good job, and probably a hell of a story that I can tell the rest of my life. And in fact, just recently in November, I got contacted by a television production group out of Japan. Did an interview with them on the same topic. They aired the story in Japan. I've been contacted by news crews and production studios really all across the world to interview me and hear my story. And they contacted with other folks that were involved in it as well, including the former director of the Virginia Lottery, who's since retired, and then the mastermind that was behind it all. They've contacted him as well. So it's been a great story to tell, and certainly something that when you think about accounting, this is about as far from what you would think of in the accounting profession as you could ever come up with. So it's a great story.
Yeah, I have an annual meeting with my CPA every year, and he never tells me anything like this.
Yep.
So how long?
Pretty unusual.
How long would it take them to run your batch of tickets at each individual convenience store?
Yeah, so we didn't necessarily have preference. So Andy, if you showed up at the store and you said, I got to play tickets or I want to play tickets, we would just be in line with the rest of the customers. But I was generally dropping somewhere between 20 and 30,000 dollars worth of play stubs at a store, and I'd come back probably an hour later to check on them. Sometimes if the retail sales with other customers was really slow, they could be through them all. Other times, they'd still be playing, and I'd just pick up what they had already produced or printed, and then make sure that they had enough to keep them going too.
Right. So you had mentioned the mastermind behind all this. Had he contacted the convenience stores and let them know ahead of time, hey, you're about to get a major dump of lottery tickets?
Yeah, so I think the way it worked, and again, a lot of this is based on some of the shows that have transpired afterwards, was the idea was formulated, they put the syndicate together, and then they had one individual in the US that was kind of the guy that handled all of the logistics. And that included working with the convenience stores and the grocery stores, all the retailers, on getting things set up, making sure that the store managers knew what was going on, making sure that behind the scenes, the flow of money was working pretty seamlessly, so that when I showed up to play the tickets, the store manager knew I was coming and wasn't having kind of a freak out moment about who's this kid showing up with $30,000 or $40,000 worth of lottery tickets.
Right.
That was all done really behind the scenes.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine you coming in, getting ready to play 20 grand in lottery tickets and then being like, what are we about to do here?
Yeah. So
pissed off employees.
Remember the story I told you about walking into the grocery store with a backpack and seeing one of my friends from high school, his dad. Mm-hmm. So after all of this was done, and at that time, my friend was he was in the Air Force and he came home that summer. So we went to his house and saw him, and I told his dad, I said, remember when you saw me in the grocery store and I had the duffel bag? Yeah. What the hell were you doing? I said, well, remember when the lottery was a big thing and that Australian syndicate won the lottery? Yeah. I said, that's what was in my backpack or my duffel bag. It was pre-printed play tickets. He goes, that's crazy. So I told him the whole story. Everybody gets a good laugh out of it for sure.
So you also told me you took, and we won't mention the president's name. You actually hunted with a grandson of one of our former presidents.
I did. Pure coincidence. So what I will say here, guys, is so I sent him a text message yesterday, just making sure he was good with me talking about this, and I have not heard back from him. So maybe on this one we take a pass on that one. I want to make sure he's okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. But it's a pretty cool story for sure.
So were there any threats from the law after all this had transpired? Now, I know everything's totally legal, but at the time, the law is probably playing catch up on this as well, and probably pretty pissed off about everything. So are they throwing out just like empty threats?
I was not aware of any threats from law enforcement at the time.
Mm-hmm.
What we did find out, though, was the way the media pinpointed us as being involved in it is a reporter was doing some dumpster diving at our office. And keep in mind, this is early 1990s. Computers were nowhere close to what they are today. So we have to keep track of our time. We work on client number one, and we have so many hours. So this reporter doing dumpster diving was able to piece together these timesheets and see the Australian syndicate listed on a timesheet. That's how they were able to pinpoint it to us. So.
Was it just pure coincidence that he was dumpster diving at your office, or did they have an indication that it might be you guys?
They probably knew it was us.
They probably knew
it was us.
Dumpster diving. That tells you everything you need to know about the media right there.
They do a lot. There you go. And actually back then, I think the media actually did journalism. Not like today. I think that back then we actually had real, I'm sure
there was real news.
Yeah, I'm sure there
was
some
little fake news probably.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some of it was controlled by the letter agencies, but they were real journalists. And that's not what we see today. So it's pretty interesting. Right. This is a hell of a story, Scott. I'm sure glad that you reached out to me, and we appreciate you listening to the podcast, being part of our family. And this is a hell of a story, and it's amazing. It would make a great movie.
It would.
Just like the guys at MIT that set the blackjack that learned how to beat Vegas.
It's very much like that.
Yeah, it's what the whole story reminded me of that, except you're not getting shot in the middle of the night by gangsters trying to kill you.
Well, the good thing is, I mean, everything was on the up and up. So, I mean,
right.
Y'all had all y'all's base. The back end had all the bases covered that nobody had to worry about.
Well, these other guys didn't break the law either. It's just frowned upon.
Well,
you can counting cards is not against the law. It's just not supposed to be done in a casino. Don't want you to do it. There's no law.
Are you sure?
I don't think there's a law against counting cards. It's kind of hard to prove you can count cards. They're not cheating. They're just smart. They frown upon it. They don't want you to do it. They'll kick you out. They have the right to ask you to leave.
Right.
But there ain't some guy in the middle of the night chasing them down and shooting at them, in cars and stuff like they did those guys.
The Virginia lottery had to be like, oh my goodness, how did we not see this coming?
Who would ever think that this would even be a possibility, right?
You didn't get a million tickets, so they could have Virginia lottery could have been very easily going.
They tried.
We got $6 million bucks off them because
that's right.
Or if it had been two other people won the damn lottery, then they'd have lost too, and they'd have been laughing. So it takes a huge set of balls to do this, and also takes some luck. And I mean, it all worked out great, but I mean,
at the end of the day, it's a game of chance, and this group, every lottery that they had played, they had won it. So then about 6 or 7 months later, there were rumors that they had contacted us again, and Pennsylvania was in a similar situation, and they were asking if we would be willing to basically do the same gig in kind of suburban Philadelphia. And I'm like, listen, doing it in cities where we know how to get around is one thing.
Yeah. Taking
a bunch of people up to Philly where we don't know the roads, we don't know how to get around, that is a recipe for disaster. So,
In the Texas lottery, if you win it and you sell the winning ticket, I think the store gets 1% or something.
Yeah, the store definitely in Virginia. The store was getting bonuses on the winning ticket as well, and I think they did here too.
So you'd think it'd be easy to find 4 or 5 different guys that own a bunch of convenience stores or something that sell tickets that you could get them to, hey, can we run 24/7 just printing off tickets to pay them off? But I was doing the math on the big lottery, and you said it was 700 million.
$600 million.
$600 million.
Just shy of it.
There's never been a lottery that you could win that you'd win money, because if you'd have won the 1.2 billion, time you pay your taxes on that, you've lost money.
Yeah.
I didn't think about taxes.
Oh yeah, they'll get you.
Yep.
Damn it. Freaking government. Always getting their hand out.
So you mentioned that the masterminds of the syndicate, he had won it in 14 other countries. What do you know what the countries are?
I know they won it in Australia. He won it in a couple of places in Europe. I think he had played a UK-based lottery and won that as well. So he had a pretty good track record. He had success.
Can you imagine meeting him at a resort somewhere? What do you do, sir? I play the lottery.
Play the lottery.
Oh, you hit the lotto? Yep. Oh, I've hit 14 of them.
Yeah.
You know, there's an ex-Dallas Cowboy football player, Thomas Hollywood Henderson, who was claimed to fame in the 70s. He was the first Lawrence Taylor, basically. Big, fast guy, hell of an athlete. He's won the lottery in Texas twice.
Wow.
All right, now
that is true luck. To be able to get it one time is lucky. To be able to get it twice.
He's hit it. He's hit it 2 times.
I can't even get my money back most of the time.
Yeah, I'm telling you, when it got up to $700-800 million, I buy into the pots. I done it all, and then we did a couple of deals here at the lodge, and then the last couple times I buy in we'd buy $300, $400, $500 as a tickets with the families, and I'd sit at home and do them, and my $500 in tickets would be worth $212. And then next week I would put another $300 in with those 200, and it would be worth $130. And by about week 5, I've got $17 left.
Yep. It's a game of chance for sure.
So they found the winning ticket within minutes of the numbers being released?
They had it coded down, though, in a box.
I know that.
Yeah.
But...
So, they basically entered the winning combination into their computer, and it said it's box number 17, sequence number 23. So they go on the wall. There's box 17. Open it up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 7. Bing, got it. They found it in no time.
That's crazy.
My dream here is I buy my lottery tickets at Penman's. Always when I do buy lottery tickets, is that Roland, who I go to church with, is basically the general manager. He's going to call me one night about midnight on a drawing night. Says, "Did you buy some lottery tickets Thursday night at 8:15 on the camera? Because it looks like you did." Yes, I did. Well, congratulations. We both won.
Yep, that'd be awesome. I would say too, the other thing with the state of Virginia at the time was the hours that the stores could sell the tickets was very regulated.
Oh, okay.
So you couldn't say, hey, Andy, you own a convenience store. When you shut down the convenience store for the night or whatever, I'll pay you to have somebody behind the counter keep running tickets 24 hours a day. There was a hard stop at either 10 or 11 p.m. So again, it was a very compressed time frame that we had to play all these different combinations. And you take that combined with the fact that there were a bunch of defects in the pre-printed play stubs that were going in. It just it got really tight.
It's just crazy how organized everything was. I'd have fucking lottery tickets scattered all over the place. I'd be trying to figure out where that went. Okay, I need an 8 and 11, whatever it is.
I couldn't have slept until we got that. When we were 1 million tickets short, I'd have been like, oh, we're screwed. Not only is it going to be the winning ticket, but the 5 out of 6 numbers is going to be in that box and this and that.
Yeah.
I'd been like,
I'm sure these guys were freaking out.
Oh, I would have been. I wouldn't have been able to poop for a month.
It all worked out on Saturday.
Well, Scott, this has been one hell of a story, and we appreciate you coming on here.
Appreciate it. A lot of fun.
Thank you very much. Are you still in Virginia?
So I soon after the TV show, I relocated to Charlotte, and then that's where I raised my family with my wife. And then for me, COVID, while it was a terrible event, it really changed the way I was working. So I went from being on an airplane 3 or 4 days a week to not traveling at all. My wife and I had sold our house, moved to a condo in downtown Charlotte. With COVID, 2 kids boomeranged back. I'm like, 2-bedroom condo, 4 people. This isn't going to work very well. So we were fortunate enough. We have a place in Hilton Head. Everybody came to Hilton Head. My kids got everything under control and graduated college and got real jobs. They left Hilton Head. My wife and I stayed. So hanging out in Hilton Head these days, which doesn't suck.
Beautiful
No,
place,
it's a
lots
beautiful
of golf.
place.
God bless you. You take care of yourself, and I appreciate you. And I look forward to the messages I get from you back and forth. You take like I said, I appreciate you being on here with us.
You bet. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Enjoyed
you very
it.
much, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. You have a good day. God bless you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I got to figure out how to hang up.
What
There
a
it
cool,
is.
what a cool story.
Bang.
Boy, I'd have been a nervous wreck. There are some smart people in the world.
Now you mentioned getting shot. I'd be nervous. You know, y'all are a million tickets short.
Oh, I could have never. I would have had a heart attack probably.
If you're the mastermind or if you're the ticket.
Well,
ticket,
I'm sure the
ticket runner.
investors probably didn't. No, I wouldn't. The ticket runners are getting paid regardless. I wouldn't be worried about that. If I was the mastermind, I would. If I was the person that put all that money up, yeah, I'd been scared to death.
I'd have just been worried.
I'd have just said, "Oh my luck, this is it."
No, I'd have just been worried as the ticket runner. This is going to come back on us.
No, couldn't. They didn't. They done their job.
I know, but still,
They
you know how these people are.
Well, I would. We done what
Coming
you
after
asked
you.
us to do. We tried. You know, the logistics didn't work out. You paid us a service. You're the ones that didn't have the scans right, not us. That was a problem having to go in there and write those things in.
Yeah.
We did a couple of group lottery deals here, back, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And there was a couple of times I had to buy like $3,000 or $4,000 in tickets. And I would call down the Penmans and I'd say, I've got $3,000 or $4,000 worth tickets.
And they probably
And
sigh.
they're making money on every one of them.
No, I just mean the employee.
Oh, I'm sure the other employees were not
Employee
happy.
having to
Yes.
run it all.
But I'd go down and take, I'd go down, they'd have them all bundled up into me in like stacks of 100, and I'd get 3,000, I'd give them 3,000 in cash and take it and go. But it's it would be that was a pain in the butt. What's really a pain in the butt is when you go through the 3,000 tickets at nighttime and have to separate the winners and losers, and then like by week 3, out of your $3,000, you got $114 left, and then you got that one guy on the list that put in, and he's like, "Well, what are we gonna do with that $114? I'm gonna go buy $114 more worth of lottery tickets." I was so happy when we finally lost all of it, Because I think the original deal was if we buy for $3,000 and we get back our money back, then everybody gets their money back. But otherwise, we're just going to play it out.
The state of Texas. Hold on, I'm trying to figure out. Okay, let me read this. In fiscal year 2023, the Texas Lottery generated a record-breaking $8.73 billion in sales. From this, it contributed $2.1 billion to the state of Texas, marking the first time the agency surpassed $2 billion in annual transfers. $2.13 billion to the foundation school fund.
But we're broke on our schools and we can't afford nothing.
$29 million to the funds of veteran assistance, aiding Texas and Texas veterans and their families. So the school department, the Department of Education in the state of Texas, got an additional $2.1 billion just off of lottery tickets.
But they're broke.
But we still are not. I don't know.
The whole time.
Where does that money go? Like what school is getting a check from the $2.1 billion from 1 year of lottery ticket sales?
I don't have a clue. I'm going to tell you right now, when the lottery first started, that was the big argument in Texas.
It's going to go to the schools.
The schools, it's going to be so good for the schools. It's going to help, blah, blah. I have not seen any change at all.
I
don't know. I'm sure it goes right into that big ass rainy day fund we have.
I got a school board meeting next week. I'll ask what pay stub is coming from the Texas Department of the Lottery that is aiding our school.
There's so many different organizations that, well, we give back so much to this and that. Well, where's that check at?
Right. When did the lottery get started in Texas?
I'm assuming 1990, maybe 91, 92,
Okay.
somewhere in that time.
Is all of that $2.1 billion supposed to go to Texas schools, or do they just?
Is that the profit off of it?
That's lottery ticket sales generated $8.73 billion in Texas. Of that 8.73, 2.1 billion went to the Department of Education.
Okay, well then that's...
Are they supposed to get rid of the 2.1 billion, or are they supposed to give away 10%, 50%?
Well, if they got 2.1 billion and they told all the people that voted on it, we were expecting $2 billion profit, whatever the profit was from the lottery, outside administrative cost.
No, this is what the foundation school fund got was $2.1 billion.
Yeah, they should get all $2.1 billion, and they should. I have no idea. I'm sure it's going to some shit we don't know about. I mean, we know it is, but that $2.1 billion. If I was in charge of it, I think, well, you divide that up between the school districts in Texas. If you've got, well, I wouldn't do it by school districts. That wouldn't be fair. I would go up by the students. If there's, let's say there's, you said $2 billion. Let's make this real simple. Let's say it's $100,000, and there's 10,000 students. Then everybody would get $10 per student, just to make it easy. I mean, I don't know how many students are in Texas.
ChatGPT says 5.5 million.
There's 5.5 million kids, about 2.1 billion. What is that? Like $4,000 a kid or something? When you start throwing that many zeros, you get me confused.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay. 20 would be 5 million times 20 would be 100 million.
$379 per student.
Okay, there you go. So I had too many zeros when I said 4,000. It would have been $400 a kid. So $379 per student. Y'all may be getting that, and you just don't know it. It's not much.
Right. Maybe that's all they give, because we get state funding. Maybe that's what it is.
No, they give more. You're getting more than $379.
I know
a kid.
that, but maybe with what we get from the state, that $379.76 is included in what we get per student. Maybe they are getting rid of it.
I'm going to bet you that if there's $2 billion there, which is a lot of money, I'm going to bet they're charging 5% administrative fee, which is a shitload of money, because that's $100 million. So they can prop their asses up in Austin and not do shit. If you work in Austin and you're in the government, screw you. That's the way I may feel. It's ridiculous the way that they do stuff.
So maybe it's already in there. Maybe it's rolling in.
But $379 a student doesn't seem like a lot for $2.1 billion. But that's
got a lot of kids.
That's right. But that's fair. But you take a big school district like Houston, which Houston's probably got 100,000 students. I don't know how much. That's they're getting $30 million or something probably.
Right.
And that's a big chunk for them. But when you break it down per kid, it's only $379.
Yeah. So
like Knox City, let's say, what do y'all got? 200
with 200 kids at $75,000. It's $76,000.
Yeah, I mean that's still $76,000 better than kicking the balls.
Yeah. You just see 2.1 billion, and you're like, I don't know of many schools that are very well off.
No, not at all. And education is a really slippery slope right now. It is with everything involved with the funding, and in each state's different. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's good. I don't know. We've got an interesting election coming up in Texas because we're fixing to get a new senator. Because Ken Paxton's going to beat John Cornyn. I think John Cornyn drops out. But legalized gambling is going to come to Texas in the next 8 to 10 years.
I wonder if that's going to go to the schools.
The school should get a percentage of it.
Where else would it go?
Well, it could go to the general fund, anything. But I
fix those roads in DFW.
I think
an expedition on that.
I think marijuana is going to become legal in Texas. There's a cannabis store I saw in Wichita Falls on Kemp Street the other day.
Medical.
It just said cannabis. Get your and I'm sure it is
medical.
But it's coming down the road, and we need to be. It should be, and that should help a lot with the taxes.
Should.
Places like Denver where people go on these pot vacations is going to start. Everybody's going to different places now. They don't have to just go there. It's kind of like Vegas. Vegas has had to do some things different because there's so many states you can gamble in.
Vegas is dead.
That's what I've heard.
I've seen on TikTok, like nobody. The strip is empty. Nobody's gambling. Like Vegas is in a bad spot right now, according to TikTok.
We were going to go. Mom wanted to go see Kenny Chesney at the Sphere. And I heard they're really losing their ass on that deal too now. So their stock prices are tumbling.
There's just no reason to go to Vegas anymore.
And I like to see Kenny Chesney again, but I'd go see him in Dallas. Yeah. I don't want to go to Vegas. If I gamble, I go to Oklahoma. I don't care about going to Vegas and all the people and all that crap, getting in a plane and all that for that. So we're going to go up north again. I would much rather go up north where it's nice and cool than to go to Vegas. I used to like to go to Vegas because that was the only place you could gamble.
The only place you could gamble.
I could go twice, 3 times a year, and it's the only place you could gamble.
Get comped a little bit. That's another thing that hurts them.
Yeah,
I've heard that they've cut down on their comping.
Yeah, we'd get picked up in a limo. Our rooms, we had a nice suite. It was free rooms, free food, free drink, for everything.
Right.
You know, it wasn't free because I was gambling, losing money or winning money, but I played a lot.
But now you're still losing money and you're not getting anything for free.
No, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Vegas is not a cheap place to go to. It back in the day when you watched the old Rat Pack stuff, like in the 60s and 70s. Even when I first went, one time me and your uncle and your papa were at the Horseshoe eating, just 3 of us, and they had steak and a T-bone steak dinner for $1.95 outside, but it wasn't on the menu. But if you asked, they get it for you. But that's the way they done stuff. You could get there's none of that shit now.
Right.
You got there now to eat. It's like eating in Miami Beach.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, according to TikTok, Vegas is really hurting. Strip's empty. It looks a lot like COVID. When they shut everything down, there's just no reason to go to Vegas.
No, I don't have any. I haven't lost anything like that. And I like to gamble, and I used to be the Vegas person, and I just don't. I can gamble a lot closer to home. It's a lot more enjoyable. I do better than I do in Vegas. I've only had a couple of trips in Vegas where I've really done really good.
I mean, go see it once. Me and my wife went one time.
You're not a gambler.
I'm not a gambler, so we went to shows and everything like that. And anymore, like you can see shows here. You can go to the Dickies Arena and see.
If you don't gamble, just go to fucking Branson. Same shit.
Right.
Well, it's a little different, but it's the same. I mean, for someone that doesn't gamble, I don't see what going to Vegas used to be a really cool thing. So these big hotels and these shows, and you could eat
it's everywhere now.
Drinks and stuff. But hell, yeah, it's just not. Plus, the whole world's changing anyways.
Right.
Everything's on a phone now.
Yeah.
And you can't put the leaves of the fall in Vermont on your phone. You can, but you can't. It's a different experience. So I want to go someplace and experience and see different things. So, yeah. It's just me. All right. Thank y'all for listening to us. We appreciate you. God bless and have a great week.
Watch for deer. Go check out all of our great sponsors. Go check out Mossberg, Mallard Bay, Mitch Hall Chevrolet, Stanfield Outfitters got a couple hunts available for you. Call Jeff. Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Podcast, Shin Gear, Dirty Duck Coffee, Ducks Unlimited, Dive Bomb Industries, Pacific Calls. Use our promo code BHP25. You'll save 25% off of your order. And Boss Shot Shells.